Hey everyone, so this is Elementary Season 5, Episode 11, called Be My Guest. Um, and it basically starts off with a man, leaving for work apparently, and on his way out, he clips a cord that's dangling from the ceiling to um, the woman he has with him, and it clearly seems like to me anyway at this point in time that she's held captive. Sherlock and Gregson then are seen speaking to this I guess higher up management dude who was the main suspect of a robbery. I think they said it was a baseball card or something like that, and how and they basically tell him how they know he's guilty. Um, they ask for his accomplice, but then Sherlock notices the guy from earlier walk in and start talking on the phone. He reads his lips and realizes the dude is acting really shifty and all that. And after the guy gets up and leaves, Sherlock follows him, lifts his phone from his pocket, and sees a video of the woman from earlier in a video, um, and how he's asking her to dance and all this shit and just disturbing ass shit. It's not totally disturbing, but it's still somewhat disturbing but anyway, it's kind of besides the point. The guy then confronts Sherlock about Sherlock stealing his phone. They get into a physical argument, and Sherlock puts dude in a chokehold. Um, Gregson then comes up, and that's kind of the end of the argument because Sherlock realizes that he doesn't have anything concrete on the dude. If anything, the guy has a case against Sherlock because Sherlock's the one who stole his phone. There was no probable cause to take the phone in the first place, so he knows he has to back off for a minute. Um, at the house, Chanel is trying and apparently failing to pick a lock. He tells Joan that he's been super busy with uh, and busier than expected and everything, and so that's why he hasn't been, studying Spanish and uh, and studying the way to pick a lock and everything. Sherlock then comes in, yells for Joan, and she comes downstairs surprised to see that he's still there, or not still there, but he's back already. Um, and so she's like, "Why are you here? I thought you were still, finishing up the other case." And he says that while the case he was working on has concluded, another one popped up, and he tells him of the suspect's name. That the suspect's name is Ryan Decker, who lives in Woodhaven, uh, and he tells him of what he saw. Reveals that Decker saw him and Gregson in the room and stuff, and he thought they were after him, and so he calls someone to take care of it. He then tells them he didn't tell Gregson because there would be, like I said before, there would be no reason to be able to get his phone. So um, he didn't want to deliberately have the woman being held captive um, to get hurt or worse, end up getting killed because he spooked the guy. Um, So Sherlock says that he and Joan will break into his place to search for anything. At Decker's place, Sherlock says he has to go in, but Joan's like, well, maybe we should call it in for suspicious behavior. But Sherlock thinks that in case he doesn't have her there, it will be a good opportunity to see what Decker has inside while gone. Once inside, they don't find much except a DVD called Mannequin, and uh, once they have Decker in police custody, Sherlock explains the synopsis of the movie, where it's basically a man who can't tell the difference or won't differentiate between a woman and an object, and dresses her up like a doll. While they're apparently eluding police, they fall in love or something like that. I think that's what they said. Anyway, so Decker says Sherlock broke into his house and planted it in his home, and Sherlock's like, well, hold up a minute. That's not how it's going to play out because, for one, you can't prove that I was in your house. Two, your fingerprints are all over this DVD, plus at least a dozen more other DVDs that are pirated on their cases. So um, then Decker tries to switch tactics and says, "Okay, well, how much is the fine?" Sherlock's like, "Well, you won't pay a fine because the FBI is cracking down more harshly on piracy, and um, they want to make examples of people who they find out are pirating their stuff." So Decker then says Sherlock is on a witch hunt and doing so without any real cause. But Gregson's like, well, any real Sherlock has a real concern, and he thinks Decker. He says that Sherlock thinks Decker is keeping a woman hostage, um, and then Gregson thinks that Decker has done one smart thing for turning off his phone so they can't track it, to see where he went to take the woman that he's holding hostage. Decker says that he lost it, and I'm just sitting here thinking like, and I'm right, Carrie, like, boy, get your life. Anyway, um, so Decker says that he wants a lawyer, um, and they're like, okay, fine, you do that, but we're going to arraign you as slow as the law will allow us, so so they can find the woman and everything. Once they leave the interrogation room, Joan tells the pair that Decker deleted his social media accounts that morning, which makes her think that he was talking that social media was another way for him to talk to his accomplice. Um, Gregson warns Sherlock and Joan that they better hurry up and find the woman because there is no way that he can hold Decker more than 24 hours on non-violent charges. So Joan then shows Sherlock photos of women who are of East Asian descent, because the woman in the video was of Asian descent, at the very least, if not East Asian descent. But Sherlock says he doesn't recognize any of them, which means that she hasn't been reported yet. Um, there is a lead apparently on a bar in Queens, which is apparently a long way away from Woodhaven. I would know, but that's apparently what they say. Decker also has an ex-wife, and Marcus has gone to talk to Decker's parents. So Sherlock goes to meet up with Marcus to talk to the parents, I think, and then Joan goes to talk to ex-wife. While there, Joan here is told that Decker, by the ex-wife, that Decker has always had a cruel streak. She also reveals that he got addicted to a really disturbing kind of pornography. Not that surprising with what he's doing. It's not that surprising. The ex-wife also tells Joan that he doesn't have any friends because even if he could make them easily, he can't keep them long because eventually the friends find out what kind of person he is. Um, and then we find out Ryan used to work in immigration, but only as a systems manager, so that's why he wasn't able to, I guess, hunt in the field per se. I mean, I guess he could theoretically still do that, but I think what Joan was trying to get at was that he would be able to. It would be easy for him to hunt for high risk women if he was able to get into the field. Um, so um, apparently he helped build a database for a security database for the ICE part of the government, um, or immigration part of the government. So she says pretty, it's pretty possible for him to have a backdoor into the system. Um, when Joan comes back home with the package later on, we find out that Sherlock asked her to pick up a doll that he purchased for a young savant hacker who could help him find out who if Decker was able to get into the back, get into the immigration um, security through a back door. And even though there isn't a back door that Decker could get into, the payment for being able to find that out was the doll, which was apparently very expensive. Um, Sherlock then asks how Shinwell is doing with his training, and Joan says she's pretty disappointed in his lack of discipline and how slow it's going. Sherlock then finds the woman in the video, and her name is Prita Bunark. But the problem is she went missing off of the cruise boat that she was working on in 2011. So she's been missing for at least 5 to maybe 5.5 years. She's been missing that long. So Sherlock and Marcus bring in Prita's friend. Um, they ask her if Prita came into the country without papers, but her friend is pretty insistent that Prita would not come into the country without papers. Um, Prita's friend then gives them the name Darnell Langston, who worked on the cruise ship with her and Prita, would hang out around the other girls and act very creepy like towards them. Um, Sometime later, we find out that Darnell has a rap sheet, including telling immigrant girls that he could give them fake immigration papers for sexual favors. And last year, apparently he's been doing that a lot. And so last year, the previous year, it all caught up to him finally, but he skipped out on bail, which makes him a fugitive. At home, Shinwell knocks on the door. Sorry, not Sherlock. And when Joan tries to, say, well, pick the lock, Shinwell, you can do it. He's like, Doc, I can't. So just open the damn door. Well, he didn't say open the damn door, but that's pretty much what I was getting. Anyway. So, Shinwell says he found Darnell's extended family who lives in Jersey City. One of them definitely looks like they're hiding him. And Shinwell also reveals he has an ex-girlfriend who works for a bondsman and found out that a company that Langston used to work for has a contract out for him. I think that's what he said. Joan then says getting Langston's extended family doesn't make up for the fact that Shinwell can't pick a lock or is lacking in his training. And Shinwell says, well, the reason why I haven't been as studious as you want me to be is because of the fact that I'm working on getting this local drug dealer to sell his product to SPK so that that will be another notch on the belt to bring SPK down. Joan tries to advise against this since these people are bigger than SPK lieutenants that Shinwell's been working with and are much more paranoid. Shinwell shoots it down and says, "You know what? I got this, dog," and then leaves. Back at Darnell's, they find out that Darnell's uncle most likely is the one not really holding him captive, but hiding Darnell. And even though it doesn't really look like anyone is home, Marcus and the other cop that goes with him go around back to check it out. And as they do that, Sherlock tries to call Joan, gets a voicemail and starts to leave her a voicemail, and Darnell comes out with the gun. Um, and Marcus and the other cop arrest Darnell. But then, as they're arresting him, Sherlock realizes that after looking inside the house, that Darnell isn't Decker's accomplice. Sherlock reveals why he figured that out, or how he figured it out. He saw fishing gear in the hall closet, or not in the hall closet, but in the hall hanging up, um, and realizes that the fishing gear, the fishing gear is practically dry. I mean, it's still somewhat dry or somewhat wet, but it's mostly dry, and so that means he was on a fishing boat within the last 24 hours. And the fishing boat that he was on, which has a camera on it, shows him on a boat miles at the sea with no cell reception, and and that and it also shows Darnell not being on a phone at all, even if there's a phone like a land, I guess, kind of a land phone on the boat at the time of the call that Decker made. So they basically cut him loose, or so basically they cut Decker loose and then tail him. When they do cut him loose, they try to make him a deal, but Decker doesn't bite. Shenwell then meets with a man named Diego, who is a drug supplier he was talking about earlier. Um, before we get any any more information on that, Sherlock and Joan are seen talking, and Sherlock blames himself because he feels if he hadn't bumped into Decker, Decker wouldn't feel the need to dispose of Prita. And it was at this point that I was really starting to think the ex-wife was in on it. I really, really was. There was, I don't know what it was like. I don't know what it was about the conversation that Joan had with the ex-wife, but there was, I mean, something started to, shift within, like, my spidey senses were starting to kind of, like, um, tingle a little bit about, and how it just seemed off. I guess it was just the fact that she seemed so eager to talk badly about him. She seemed like incredibly eager, and it's like, well, I don't know. It just seems weird. I don't know. It just seemed weird. The whole conversation just seemed off. And so this was about the point about the point in time of where I started to suspect the ex-wife. Um, Gregson then calls to tell them they lost Decker. Back at the station, Gregson says their guys lost sight of him on the train, and Decker's new phone turned off shortly after that. And he seemed to have gotten off around Rockaway Beach, and that's where Sherlock suggests they look, since Decker had paintings of the beach in his house, and it looked like it was painted by the same person, most likely Decker. Later that day, Gregson, Joan, and Sherlock go to the beach and get told that there's a bunch of blood on the sand. Joan suggests the blood isn't Prita's and that of the accomplice. Sherlock found Decker's first mistake a few feet away, which is a set of keys with a P.O. box number etched into it. The one of the keys on the keychain is belongs to a house on Irwin Street, or Irwin Road, and that is the house that an employee at the P.O. Box office delivers mail to. Gregson says that since Prita was held captive for the past 5 years, anyone on the other side of the door that isn't Prita most likely knew what was going on, should be considered armed and dangerous. He tells this to the SWAT guys. Sherlock and Joan listen as they make entry, as those guys make entry, find out apparently Prita is alive. They're called inside the house, but it turns out the woman isn't Prita. Her name is Bonita, and Decker's had her there for 2 months, and she hasn't seen Accomplice or Prita. So Joan says Decker must have had Prita somewhere else, and Sherlock finishes sentence by saying before she brought Prita to the beach and cut her throat. Sherlock realizes that what Decker meant by take care of her when he looks inside the fridge. Decker meant in the literal sense, not the figurative sense of, finish her, cut her throat, whatever. He meant make sure that she's well fed and everything and all that stuff, just in case it was picked up. Joan realizes that the soy milk is the brand of milk the accomplice likes and tells Sherlock and Gregson that people buy what they know, and like no matter no matter where they are, whether it's on the other side of town or the other side of the world, they will buy what they know. Uh, Joan says she saw her drink it, and that was definitely when I knew the ex-wife was in on it. That was definitely when I knew, because I was like, that's the only female that's the only female person that we've seen that they talked to at all extensively. So that's pretty much the only person that could have done it. Joan then tells him that she saw the ex-wife drinking the same brand of creamer or milk she put into her um, coffee. Um, Gregson is confused about this because he thought the ex-wife hated Decker. Sherlock says they could have been divorced. They've been divorced for 6 years, and Prita has only been missing for 5, and they don't know Prita's the first woman Decker took. Uh, Sherlock thinks that both Decker and the ex-wife kidnapped and held women for years together. Um, so they then arrest the ex-wife, and one of the SWAT members realizes there's someone in her trunk. They open it and realize it's Prita. They bring her in and tell her that they know she killed Decker. They also tell her that they thought that it was Prita's or the accomplices, but realized it was Decker's when he had, when they couldn't find him. Um, they checked all the missing women that she declared illegal immigrants, including the one she filed as legal while she was still married to Decker. Um, and they tried to get, something out of her, but she won't say anything until she talks to a lawyer and everything. So back at the house, Shinwell is already in there when Joan walks in with food. He has managed to pick all the locks, including the front door, except for one, which is apparently rusted through. So that's why he couldn't pick it. But he tells Joan that the deal he was working on with Diego was called off because the guy was too squirrely and found out that Diego's connections were all dried up. And so Diego, what he was planning to do was he was planning on asking for half of Chanel's money up front and run away with it. Um, Joan then gets Chanel to stay for dinner so he can work on his Spanish and everything. So that's pretty much the whole episode, which I liked it. I mean, for all intents and purposes. I mean, it's just a regular old Sherlock or Elementary episode. But anyways, next week on Elementary, there is a killer who kills clowns. And when I saw that preview, I laughed. I don't know why. Maybe just because of the fact that there within the last like 6 to 8 months, there have been sightings um, of creepy ass clowns running about on the East Coast. I mean, and apparently it's all on the East Coast. It's not like anywhere else. It's not like on the West Coast. It's apparently all on the East Coast. I don't know. But anyway, so it just maybe just it seems like they're Elementary's been pulling stories from kind of like stories from the headlines, I guess you could say, just like Law and SVU does, but Anyway, and apparently it looks like the count, all three of the clowns that were, or maybe four clowns now, were given viruses, and everything. So, I don't know. I can't really speculate. I think that could possibly. I think the whole theory of someone giving these clowns viruses, like one person, like in a CEO position is giving these clowns viruses, is kind of a red herring. I think what's happening is one of these clowns committed a crime. One of these specific clowns committed a crime against someone. Like he raped someone's mother, brother, sister, father, cousin, uncle, aunt, whoever, um, or did the same thing but except murder, this time, and like he either raped, murdered, uh, brutally assaulted, who knows, but something. He did something. There's one of these clowns did something to someone's aunt, uncle, mother, brother, father, sister, whoever, someone's relative that's very close to them. And so they killed them, but they decided to kill more clowns to make it look like the serial killer was just killing clowns. So I don't know, maybe that's just me, but that's what I think. And I will see you guys next week on Elementary. Bye.